Welcome to this latest episode of Japan's top business interviews. My name is Greg Story. I'm the host of the show. I'm the president of Dale Carnegie Training here in Japan. And it is my special guest today, Mr. Shinzo Yotsumoto, who has had a number of iterations here in Japan, is currently with Kiduki Architects as a special advisor. But you've been running big companies here, I know, in the past, Yotsumoto-san. So let's talk a little bit about that. The theme is leadership. So tell us a little bit about your career and some of your early experiences as a leader, and then we'll go a bit deeper on some of those subjects. So What were you doing when you first started in your career, and what was the industry you're in?
Yeah. So first of all, Greg, thank you very much for your kindness to invite me and introduce me to the audience. Mm-hmm. I graduated university as a mechanical engineer and joined a Japanese steel company called Kobe Steel. Mm-hmm. When I joined that company, I never thought to change my career from there. But my first boss impressed me a lot with his way of doing jobs or speaking in the meetings. And I was very much impressed and influenced by him. And he was just returned back from expatriate to West Germany at that time. So I also wanted to be an expatriate to overseas countries. And finally, I was sent to West Germany 1985 till 1989, before Berlin Wall collapsed down.
Yeah.
So that 4.5 years changed my thoughts about my career. And I found very interesting to work in a cross-cultural context. So when I worked in Kobe Steel for 17 years, I started to think to change to a global company. And then I joined Michelin, the French tire company, Japan's affiliate, as a global account executive to cover global Toyota business, not only in Japan, but also worldwide. And worked there as a global account executive for 12 years.
Okay, so you've gone from the steel business to the tire business, quite a different business. But I guess, what were some of the things that you learnt in Germany around leadership? Because you mentioned that your senior had been posted in Germany and obviously had picked up some ways of communicating with people, dealing with people, leading people, which you thought were very effective and very attractive. And so I'm guessing that you also picked up some of those ideas yourself when you're in Germany, and you're able to apply those when you came back to Japan. So what were some things you noticed, how things were done in Germany that were different from Japan?
In Germany, the Kobe Steel has only one single office for steel division that was located in Düsseldorf. And because we need to cover all the Europe, not only western part, but also eastern part. So I travel a lot to visit many companies there, like the Daimler, Benz, or BMW, Volkswagen, or Bosch, or even ThyssenKrupp. And not only those German companies, but also I visited many British or French or Spanish, Italian, or many other countries' company to talk about business. And I found that each country has different culture, and also each company has different culture inside. So I found it's not that easy to say the cultural difference is such and such in a single word. So many differences there. And when I was, before that, I was in Japan, that Europe is one cultural unit or something, but the reality was not like that. So first finding I made was each company, each country has different culture, and even inside one company, there are different people having different ideas and thoughts. So many Japanese people, maybe not at that time, maybe currently different, maybe, but about 40 years ago, the Japanese people think in the same way, like this. So one single guy says, this way, then people follows, like that way. So, but in Europe, if we don't communicate to understand deeper the counterpart is thinking, we cannot create any right communication channel. That's a kind of big challenge for me, and that made me kind of fascinating. Such differences everywhere can make me more broader thinking and also broader way of doing things.
How about when you moved from Kobe Steel, which is a huge Japanese company, very traditional, and you go to Michelin, right? It's a French company. It's got tyre business, entirely different world of business for you. What were some of the business differences around leadership that you noticed? Because again, I take your point that you can't say Europe because there's so many different countries. You can't even say one country because company by company is different. But just thinking about things you noticed when you got to Michelin about the way the company was led, the way that the leadership operated, that you thought, oh, well, that's a bit different, or that's attractive, or that's not going to work in Japan. What were some things you noticed?
Yeah. So before joining Michelin, the Kobe Steel delivered a lot of steel materials to Michelin to create tire. And technical requirement was so different from Japanese tire makers. And I was also curious, the company itself, Michelin, who made steel radial tire first in the world. So they have their very unique philosophy to develop tires, produce tires. So the first thing I was impressed is strong commitment of the leadership of Michelin, that they concentrate 100% to develop tire. For tire, not only for passenger cars, truck, aerospace. So anyway, always stick to tire. But inside this tire technology, they are so innovative. Still today, I believe that they always try to innovate tire. So then the leadership is driving those kind of philosophy, not only just talking, but behaving, encouraging the employees with the philosophy and the commitment to the tire products.
Are they doing this, in Japan you have like the chore every morning, you get together, you have town halls, you get all hands meetings, these type of things. What methodologies were they using?
So, of course, the methodology-wise, not such difference. But the one difference there was real discussion, not just big boss speaks and the other guys just listen. That's not the way.
Okay.
Even the ideas are different. They talk and try to explain deeper the difference of the ideas. So I was impressed also such kind of open way of encouraging people to speak their own ideas.
So how would you compare that to a Japanese leadership situation? If that was a Japanese company and they had this, we're focused on tires and philosophy, and how would they do it that would be different?
I think currently Japanese companies are changing the style. So I can say today it's still the same, but when I was there in Kobe still, that hierarchical thinking is always there. So boss says something, the team members should follow. That is kind of common sense to behave. So even younger guys have different ideas or thoughts. It is not easy to speak out in front of the big boss. So that's in Michelin that there's no such barrier that they should talk, or even they should express their opinions, even if it is far from the ideas of the boss. So that's there was more freedom to speak out.
And did you speak up yourself? Did you take advantage of that type of environment and talk up and disagree with the boss? Or were you very Japanese and kept a very low profile and didn't say too much?
In fact, that's also another surprise. That I was, before the having the chance of expatriate, I was kind of typical Japanese, calm, quiet, and not a speaker, rather listener. But in the different atmosphere and culture, I was able to speak out more because there's no fear or something to speak my own ideas. So that's kind of atmosphere is different.
And at that time, were you leading a team within Michelin, or you were as one person taking care of different accounts?
I had 7 members in my global account team, but we work also cross-functionally, R&D engineers, test drivers, and also French headquarters engineers. The idea of global account executive is coordination, not just focusing on Japan or not just the part of global big organization, but as far as Japanese customers are concerned, the leadership can allow the global account executive team to drive for the business or for the customers in Japan. So that's the kind of well-designed structure.
Okay.
That's the cross-functional coordination is a must.
Okay. Well, how long were you in Michelin?
12 years.
12 years, okay, quite a long time.
Yeah.
And so what was your final position in Michelin?
This is global account executive. Is most part, but later I was the head of quality management system of Michelin Group. And also I was part of the management team of local Japan Michelin.
And then after 12 years, what happened next?
So that was my first opportunity to be headhunted.
Okay.
By American automotive parts maker named TRW Automotive. They had been searching a country manager position for TRW Automotive Japan operation. So they contacted me, and the Michelin had a relationship with TRW Automotive in US. At that time, there's a big incident by Firestone and Ford Explorer. because of the tire, the puncture, then many people killed due to this accident, and U.S. government decided to monitor tire pressure all the time when people drive the car. So Michelin need sensor technology, but they don't have. So they contacted TRW, who had sensoring technology. So they formed a joint venture in US. So when I got first contact without name of that company, I recognized by reading the profile of that company. Oh, this is TRW. Maybe it might be interesting.
You knew, yeah.
And the main interest of TRW at that time was they had been struggling how to grow business with Toyota. So the TRW Automotive was successful in US with GM, Ford, Chrysler. So, but they had struggled with a Japanese company like Toyota. So they had to find someone who has some experience with business with Toyota. So that was why they contacted me to lead Japan local team and to reorganize the Japan organization to fit to the business in Japan.
How big was the Japanese organization you took over in Japan?
When I joined TRW, there was 250.
250 people. It's
employees.
quite big, isn't it?
And I worked there 6 years, and we increased to 350 based on the growth of the business with Japanese vehicle manufacturers.
So, you know, you've been an account executive for Michelin, you know, dealing with the matrix of different parts of Michelin. Then you become the country manager for TRW. So that's quite a big step up in terms of leadership, having 7 people in the main team, and now you've got 200 plus, you know. What was challenging to make that step up? And also particularly, you're coming from another company, slightly different in the sense of the businesses are different. How do you establish credibility with the existing team? How did that work?
So first challenge was Michelin's case. Business unit is only limited, maybe 4 or 5 business units. And biggest one is passenger car business unit, tire. But in TRW, there are many business units separated. So because TRW is formed by M&A type of different companies,
okay.
so different culture already there.
Wow, okay.
So even in Japan organization, one guy came from one part of business unit, or one guy different from. So first thing I had to do is how to create one team atmosphere. So first thing I did is I interviewed all the employees one-on-one to understand.
All 200?
Yes.
Wow, okay, that's impressive.
So of course time is limited, 30 minutes for everyone. But this is a very interesting investment for me to know the people and who is thinking what type of, so finding some ways to connect them into one direction. So after you're going through
well, they must have been very surprised. I can imagine that in their entire working careers, they'd never had a new boss speak to every single person in the company one by one for 30 minutes. So how was their reaction to you? Were they fearful of you? Were they guarded? Were they happy? How did they think about this new idea? Because I'm sure it was quite a new idea for them.
So some they felt positive, some felt negative, of course. But one single message was delivered anyway. the new management is open to listen to them. That was quite message to the people who was always divided by the business unit. And even they had a country manager there, but this country manager never tried to unite people. That's of course, through this 30 minutes conversation, the 80-90% I listening, but 10% or something I delivered the message. I'm open to any ideas if they are willing to join the new company's objective to get working together to grow business together. So that was quite effective to change people's kind of mindset.
Sounds like, we talk about the silo problem in Western business culture, all these divisions, run by type of, very strong individuals who keep the divisions very tight. So how did you go about, as you say, you've got a lot of M&A prior activities, so people come from everywhere. How did you also work on getting the divisions to work as one unit as opposed to independent units?
So I also talked to the business unit head, directors, what they want or what they are expecting to Japan organization. And I found that many management in the top of the business units have the same objectives to grow business with Japanese vehicle manufacturers. So with this big picture, I convinced them to do that in front of, for example, Toyota. They need to deliver one single message rather than one business unit say to different thing to Toyota and the other says different. That's confusing and that's damaging the reputation of TRW. So I convinced them that delivering one single united message is so strong, important and strong to change the reputation inside customer organization about TRW.
In a company of that size, when you're sitting in the president's office and you've got your direct reports and you imagine, I've explained this very clearly, I've been very consistent in my messaging, so therefore I should expect that everyone got the message and everyone's doing what I think they should be doing. But as we know, with big organizations, often what people in the executive offices think is happening and what's actually happening down the bottom is not exactly the same. So what did you find in terms of how well your message went through the organization, and what did you do to make sure that it went right to the very bottom and the understanding there was the same as the understanding of the top?
So I started to issue the quarterly newsletter to all the employees, what we are going to do and what we have achieved so far, type of. So every quarter I did wrote a newsletter directly to each individual employee. So, and also I encourage them to, if they have any opinions on what was written in my newsletter, the door is always open to come to see me to talk about.
And did they, because the nail that sticks out gets hammered down in Japan, and tei shisei, the low profile, is the safest place to be. So, and people can say these things, yes, my door's always open, but people to believe it and actually turn up on your door and talk to you, how did you find the reaction of people actually doing that?
So I need to, of course, demonstrate that, whether this guy, me, is trustworthy for them. So there are several elements that they want this type of thing in my office, or they want to change something to work more efficiently, type of proposals. So I tried to make it happen very quickly. So repeating all those things. So, this guy is not just talking, but really make it happen for them. So that's a kind of important thing that consistency is based on trust. And the consistency comes from the make it happen what I or someone talks. So that is very important to create trust with the team.
And, sometimes leaders will have town halls or they'll have lunches with rather junior people, and very informal type of thing. This is very common in the West, of course. How about yourself? Did you try a town hall approach as well? Did you try, reaching down and getting more junior people, having lunches or coffees or, I don't know, as a group? Just do you try those sorts of things as well or no?
I didn't do the same thing like that from my initiative. If someone wants to see me, as I said, door is open, but I didn't want at that time to have such kind of structured way of communication. Rather, I'd like to deliver something which is tangible and believable. And that when I was there, I convinced the American headquarters to invest R&D center, new R&D center. When I joined TRW, the year 2002, the already small piece of test equipment, but we didn't have the consolidated one collaborative the R&D center at that time. So I convinced the American headquarters to invest and create a new R&D center. That is kind of the great step to have the strongly united team. And at that time, CEO of American headquarters was very famous guy not to invest.
Oh, not to invest.
Not to invest. That's so together with business unit leaders, together with those managers in US headquarters, I tried to create scenario and business case to convince this CEO. So first step, that when this CEO decided to invest to Japan, Yokohama, that was kind of the big moment for Japanese employees.
Yeah.
That the U.S. headquarters is serious to listen to us, Japanese colleagues, and also invest really for the future. So that was a great thing to change the atmosphere of that company.
So did you feel a change in terms of how people regarded you as a leader? Did you feel, oh, now I have more trust, I feel people are really listening to me, they're taking me seriously? Did you feel that sense of change?
Yes. So typical failure mode of the global company, subsidiary in Japan, is the head of local Japan organization always listen to the order or direction or guideline from the headquarters overseas. That's worst case scenario because there is no autonomy or something, just do as here. For the headquarters people, it's easier to manage Japan organization. Just order and do it like this. But I tried to change this kind of the mistrust by showing we Japanese, together with Japan's the leader, can change this direction. They can change the strategy of U.S. headquarters to more closer focus to Japanese customers.
Are you doing business with Japan? Do you really know how things work? Japan Business Mastery provides the answers. Do you have the right networks and know how to create them? Do you know how to get on the same wavelength with Japanese buyers? Do you know what being trustworthy looks like from the Japanese perspective? Japan Business Mastery is based on more than 30 years' experience in Japan and will become your go-to guide. Want to succeed in Japan? Buy Japan Business Mastery now. So that's a good point, isn't it? Because if I'm working in the company, I'm always going to be worried about the client, customer. And if I know I've got an R&D centre here, I feel more confident to talk to the client and the customer about doing business and being able to adjust whatever it may need adjusting to the local requirements. So that must have been a big step. So how long are you at TRW?
I was there as a country manager 6 years.
6 years, right?
Yeah.
And then what happens then?
Then again, the second headhunted by Schaeffler, Germany. So I joined Schaeffler 2012.
So Schaeffler, what sort of business was Schaeffler doing in Japan?
Also, they have two big business divisions. One is automotive business division, and the other is industrial, all the industrial sectors. Mm-hmm. So two big divisions, and the main focus is, of course, automotive, the business division, which is biggest revenue source for Schaeffler. And they also needed to grow business with Japanese customers, like Toyota again. So they recognized some success of TRW Automotive in Japan. Uh-huh. So they also thought they need also some change like that.
So how big? How like 200 up to 300? I think you said with the TRW. How big was Schaeffler at that time?
When I joined that company, the number of employees was 300.
Already 300, so about the same size as the TRW, right? And how big did you take it, or to stay at 300?
Our target was 500. Okay. But when I retired then, at that time, about 420 or something.
On the way to 500. So again, you know, one of the things that for leaders is how to adjust to each change, because, and I made this mistake of imagining that I did a good job over here, and not exactly a template, but in my mind, these factors worked very well here, and I'll put them over here, and they'll work well here too. But in fact, the company culture, people, business can be quite different, and you find that actually what you thought was going to work wasn't working all that well, or it didn't work well at all. But how about yourself? How did you make that adjustment to say, okay, I've got to go from this system that I've been using, which is working quite well, now I've got a different business, different company. How do you think about making that adjustment?
Very luckily, the Schaeffler also thought their approach by business divisions are not effective enough to grow business with Japanese customers. So they tried to introduce global account management. So in that sense, that they kind of listening what I can do for them to implement global account management. So, and the management also supported me to implement all those changes. So in that sense, there was no the big hurdle to kind of repeat the same approach like I did in TRW.
Did you meet with all 400 employees for 30 minutes each like you did before?
Unfortunately, not everyone, but kind of I did a group meeting by team by team, about 40 team, but the longer time, 1 hour type of exchange with them. So, of course, effectiveness is not that big like a one-on-one meeting, but good news was they also wanted to change something
Themselves
already.
Oh, okay, that's a big start, isn't it?
Yes.
If they have a desire for change from their side, and you could become the person who creates that change for them.
Yes. So kind of ground preparation was there by the management already. So what they want is what we do to change. So that for me easier than when I joined TRW.
Right. So in that case, when you talk about the what, is that a case of you provide the what? Okay, with my experience with Michelin, my experience with TRW, this is the what we should do. Or do you get them together to decide what they should do? How did you work that? Was it a sort of bottom up or was it a top down? How did it go?
The IT formed a bottom up team. So everyone should have some ideas to grow business with Japanese customers. Or how they provide technical solutions, not just given by German headquarters. Their own ideas create new solutions. So they invested R&D set again to reinforce local engineering capability.
So you're very successful. You've convinced 2 big companies to invest in Japan with R&D. That's quite a big achievement.
Yep.
Was the head of Schaeffler more open to investing than the previous head of TRW, who was the don't invest guy? Was it a bit more positive there?
Yes. As I said, the ground preparation was already there. So even the German CEO always tried to reach me to listen to Shinzo, what do you want?
Okay.
So that part, convincing the management part, is already done. But again, the bottom up and the encouraging employees are different challenge anyway, because they were typical Japanese, and previous management also just follow the guidance from German headquarters.
Right.
So many young employees are almost given up of proposing something to the management. That part I need to encourage them to speak out and how to make it happen. So this time I didn't do so much, but just encouraging to make their wish to happen. So that's also an interesting thing that 3 different companies in the context of global account management. First one is kind of development of my own experiences, how to coordinate internal organization to match and align the customer's expectation towards Michelin. So that's a kind of my learning was there. And TRW is to the work to change the Japan local culture to have more ownership of the business. And then third part of Schaeffler is ownership again, but more initiative proposed by local Japan people.
So for you, you've had Japanese company experience with Kobe Steel, but living in Germany, Düsseldorf, for 4+ years. Then you're going into the French company, which is Michelin, an American company, TRW. Now you're with the German company. Did you find that you had more affinity with the German company because of your experience of living in Germany, working there, your ability to speak the language, speak German? Was that a factor, or it didn't make any difference?
Yeah, in fact, I carry always the feeling that I was kind of grown by my experience in Germany. Of course, covering Europe, but Germany is for me a second kind of home country type of feeling still, I feel. And my family also carries the same. So I thought that this is my kind of, in Japanese word, N.
N means like the circle, like that connectivity, I guess, yeah.
Or kind of
fate or something, maybe.
Yes,
like fate?
Positive fate.
Positive fate. Okay.
So I enjoyed working in German company, and of course the cultural difference, the French, American, German company, there should be cultural differences because of the country difference, and also Schaeffler has their own culture inside. But that was closer to me if I compare with French or American.
Did you speak German with the president of Schaeffler and the senior executives, or always in English?
The Schaeffler was changing from the German-speaking company to English-speaking company.
They themselves are changing. Okay, that's interesting.
So when I joined, of course, first year, half and half type of. But then they announced that official language inside should be English.
Wow,
so,
okay.
From there, we spoke in English.
In English, yeah. I always found that the level of English amongst German executives that I meet, anyway, is extremely high. I'm sure there are plenty of people working in factories who probably don't need English and probably don't speak English that well, but the sorts of people I ever meet, I'm always amazed, like, wow, they're so fluent, in English. That's incredible. Yeah. So high level there. So in terms of how many years then at Schaeffler were you there?
8 years.
8 years, right? And then what happens?
So 2 years ago, in 2019, so I was 65 years old. So that was kind of retirement age for Schaeffler Group.
Oh, okay. So Germany has that sort of set number. For example, I'm Australian. Australia got rid of a retirement age quite a long time ago. There's no retirement age. It's all by agreement. So I don't know. I imagine that Germany would be like that too, but it sounds like they were still quite traditional.
No. So that was kind of guideline or something. There is no firm end date or something. But that was the time that of general retirement age in Japan too. So I retired the January 2020, the Schaeffler Group, and I joined Roland Berger as an advisor to them.
Okay. So what's the business that Roland Berger was doing in Japan?
That is kind of a strategic consultancy.
Okay. Right.
So Roland Berger is famous in Japan. Comparing with US-based consulting firm, more closer to kind of culturally closer to Japanese customers. So their name is well known as a kind of reliable partner of business strategic building.
And so now you're an advisor also to your new company here, which is Kiduki Architect. So you're a senior counsel there. So if you think back to your career in leadership, what were some things that you found worked very well to get creativity? Because, I've often heard that, Japanese teams are not very creative. It's all top down, just follow orders. But in my experience working with Japanese team members, I've always found they're very creative if they're given the opportunity to let their ideas come out, And so I guess the environment is one part, and also the methodology of getting the ideas out is another part. But what's been your experience with having creativity from your teams?
Yeah. So before talking about creativity, one thing I'd like to mention here is there is always an image Japan is different, or doing business in Japan is difficult. But this image is, for me, is not right. So wherever we work or we do business, we need to understand our counterpart, customer or stakeholders, anyone. We need to communicate and understand deeper what they want from us. So in that sense, if we have the ability to overcome cultural differences through right communication, then we can understand deeper what customer really want. And then alignment becomes smoother.
So how do we get that right communication then? How does that work?
So in my case, curiosity is a keyword. So if my counterpart have different opinion, I become more curious. Why this guy thinks differently from what I'm thinking? And this curiosity drives me asking more questions to my counterpart. Why do you think like that? And what is the difference of my ideas? The type of this kind of communication, asking more until really understand what my counterpart is really thinking. So that's kind of curiosity is a key parameter to understand deeper. So with this, the context, the creativity of Japanese guys, if we really give them a chance to speak out, as you said, so they should have their opinions, just they want some security to speak out, whether they are free to make wrong statement or making mistakes in the conversation, something. Those are kind of psychological barrier. If we can eliminate those and speak out, so create that atmosphere. And conversation and communication is a key. Not to try to convince, but to understand why this guy is doing different things.
So it's the opposite. It's a sort of not a push, it's a pull type of activity.
Yes.
In my experience of Japanese decision-making or ideas or whatever in companies, people tend to walk into a room, they look around, okay, who's male, who's female, who's my senpai, who's my senior, who are the senior executives, and they place themselves in that hierarchy, and therefore they don't say anything because they don't think at their level they have any right to say something. Oh, that person joined the company before me, or he's a man, I'm a woman, I can't speak up. So how did you overcome, which is quite a cultural thing in Japan, this sort of barrier, self-imposed barriers, I would say, and culturally imposed barriers, I would say. How did you overcome those to give them a psychologically safe environment where they could say something that may be a bit different or may not sound correct or may sound a bit silly, but still they were encouraged to say it anyway? How did you do that?
So key is that whether I'm really wanting to understand what he or she is trying to say in the conversation. You need to focus to listen and pose questions to understand deeper. So that kind of exchange is very important. And naturally, if curiosity is there, that conversation should be happening all the time, if the opinions are different. So such kind of curiosity-based relationship is very helpful to create some atmosphere. Oh, well, I can speak, and then through the conversation, maybe I can learn something from that guy, or he or she can learn from something from my comments. So that's kind of exchange opportunity to understand deeper, and even sometimes different opinions can create new ideas from there.
Yeah.
So that's a kind of joint effort to find new way of thinking or new ideas by having different opinions. So encouraging them, having different ideas is good, or silly, stupid ideas is good. Let's talk, and let's find whether it's really stupid or silly, or maybe it's kind of new way of doing things. That's kind of encouraging thing.
And did you do that in a formal way? Like, for example, did you have like brainstorming sessions where you get everyone together and go through a formal brainstorming methodology? Or how did you work that?
So in the periodical monthly meeting, I always try to create such kind of atmosphere, posing, even sometimes I pose very stupid questions. And I apologize, or I made a mistake. And so I want to be a kind of role model, posing stupid questions and making mistakes. But after that, I always say, I learned out, thank you very much for your pointing my mistakes type of.
Right. So you're modeling the behavior yourself.
Yes.
That's a point about mistakes, isn't it? Because the innovation process itself is very messy. It's not the perfect, progression. Every step is perfect and correct. It's messy. So when we ask for creativity or we look to have some innovation, there's also going to be mistakes. There's going to be errors. There's going to be things will happen. And if we want to encourage people to keep going, then how we treat mistakes becomes very important. How did you treat mistakes in the companies that you worked in, or you led, I should say?
So German headquarters also have been trying to encourage all those mistakes. And there are many reasons behind. So mistakes, we can learn a lot from mistakes to improve our business processes or manufacturing processes. So they learned a lot from Toyota production system, where Toyota encouraged people to learn from mistakes rather than just hiding something behind.
Or punishing them, I guess, for mistakes, right? Yeah.
So that is also the way we learned a lot. Schaeffler also learned a lot the Toyota production system and philosophy. So the try to create such culture, encouraging people to make mistakes. Just need to learn from mistakes and error. So that's natural.
Yeah.
Human make mistakes. So just to become honest, rather than I'm perfect, so I don't make any mistakes. That's not true.
If you want to be successful as a leader, do the Leadership Training for Managers course. All companies need people who can both manage and lead. Leading people screams out for real skills in communication, dealing with all different types of people, being excellent at innovation, planning, delegation, handling mistakes, doing performance reviews really well, and inspiring and motivating the team. Do the Leadership Training for Managers course now in either Japanese or English. But for a lot of leaders, that's the image, isn't it? I'm the smartest person in the room. I got my MBA from some big name university somewhere. I'm like God. I make all the decisions. I know what's going on. I mean, it's a very common leadership pattern, isn't it? So you're talking about something quite different, more of a humanistic approach, it sounds to me. So we've talked a lot about leadership. Are there any questions about leadership, Yotsumoto-san, that I haven't asked you, which I should have asked you?
So one thing is, as I said, Japan culture is somehow unique if we compare with Western culture. So leadership in Japan, usually also kind of isolated or global community. So
Galapagos Island syndrome type of thing, right?
Yeah. So the leadership in Japan should have certain level of courage to get into that community. It's the hard thing to do, but to get in, to be recognized as a new leader there, and who can really drive the change for the local Japan organization for better. So that kind of courage is mandatory, rather than just being a follower to follow the guidance from the headquarters. That's not the way to be a leader.
In some ways, Japan has been a leader in technology and in systems like the Kanban system with Toyota, etc. But people often say that Japan has sort of lost its way a little bit. Most of the big advances are coming out of America mainly, Silicon Valley, etc. And so Japan, in a way, is not known anymore for any particular areas of technology. But what do you think about that? Is that we're missing something here, that Japan actually is doing a fantastic job, or is Japan gradually getting left behind, or what do you think?
There are several elements there. So technologically, for example, China or those newcomers is getting more innovative than before. That's true. So comparatively, presence of Japan is getting less comparatively. But still, there are many good companies, even these size-wise small, but very good companies are still there. It's language barrier. If we talk about the younger generation, even in Japan, they can speak fluent English already. Population-wise, getting growing, but still, not only the language skill, but also how to express them in front of global circumstances is still weak. That's because of the educational thing, cultural thing, but they need to have more skill to participate in the argument in a global context, overcoming cultural differences.
Yeah, you notice that when you get to national conventions, conferences, Koreans in English, very outspoken, Taiwanese in English, very outspoken, and recently Chinese, English level, very, very high, surprisingly high. And Japan always seems to be a little bit more quiet and a little bit more demure and not really speaking up much, not taking a lead. So there's probably things they can do there. Well, if we're thinking about some advice for someone who's going to be sent to Japan to run an organization here by their company, they don't speak Japanese, they don't know Japan. If you were to give someone some advice on how they could succeed here, just a couple of pieces of advice, what sort of advice would you give them?
The first thing is it is important to be or to get connected with customer with trust. So the Japanese customers are always experiencing with global companies that who don't understand the real needs of Japanese customers by treating those Japanese customers like American customers or European customers like. So it is important to understand the real customer needs. I always say honne and tatemae.
Honne and tatemae, yeah. The surface reality and the actual reality, we could maybe translate it like that, superficial reality and actual reality, yeah.
This superficial reality, that's Japan's cultural thing, that when even they first meet, they start the superficial reality talking. That's a kind of the representing some kind of politeness. Speak directly to the point is not the polite or not gentle enough until they know each other deeper.
So what you're saying is don't be straightforward and direct at the start because there's not the trust build up there yet. Build the trust first and then you can speak more frankly and directly. Okay. So how should they build up the trust then?
The key is consistency and accountability. So when we listen to customers' need in the honne level, deep the reality level, then we need to deliver something to fulfill those expectations. Not 100%, but with the honest response. So that kind of conversation is important. Of course, easy way is just say always yes to Japanese customer. That's not sustainable, as we all know. So we need to sometimes say no to Japanese customers. That's good, but we need to explain why no. So that kind of conversation and explanation can create trust with the customers.
What other advice would you have for someone new coming to Japan?
Enjoy.
Enjoy Japan. What does that mean? Does that mean don't spend all your time in the office 18 hours a day and don't see anything of Japan, or what does that mean?
Why I say enjoy means that I still remember the first day when I arrived in Germany. I was always surprised the treated like differently, like when I was in Japan. That's the kind of cultural kind of shock. So any newcomers will face a similar thing in Japan when they arrive first time. Shocking thing. So it's not easy to understand why Japanese guys are doing this, or they don't treat me not so nice type. Maybe there are many shocking things. The first phase of the integration, but that's also learning opportunity. If they carry the curiosity, why they treat like this, then they will find some answer step by step. That's a kind of enjoyable journey. Of course, first step, uncomfortable experience. But in the end, that's a kind of new findings of new culture thing. So that's why I say enjoy it. Even they face uncomfortable situation. That's a kind of learning opportunity.
Yeah.
Take it just uncomfortable, irritating thing. Do not take it just like that. Just learning opportunity you are facing. So that's why I say enjoy.
Should they learn Japanese?
Not necessarily.
Not necessary.
But if you speak a little Japanese, that creates some kind of ice break type of the influence, positive influence. And also that's also demonstrates you are trying to learn something while they are in Japan.
Okay.
Of course, they cannot be a fluent Japanese speaker or perfect understanding of Japan culture. That's not the target. But trying to understand, that's kind of attitude is very important to demonstrate to ice break.
If you were thinking of a definition for leadership, what would be your thinking about what is leadership?
Leadership is a kind of positive influencer to the organization, not just bringing the answers to the team, but influencing them to try to new things and learn from it. So kind of leading the organization is creating such atmosphere. The people involved is always trying to make challenges and learning something and growing by themselves.
Great. Excellent. Excellent way to finish. Thank you very much, Yotsumoto-san. It's been absolutely fascinating. Appreciate the time. Thank you. Well, that was absolutely marvelous. Lots of insights there today from Yotsumoto-san. So please join us again for our next episode of Japan's top business interviews.